Hey all you cool cats and kittens, I'm a Frog and today I'll be ranking all of the Halo campaigns from worst to best. I'm just counting the 8 FPS games, so Halo Wars, Spartan Assault, that kind of stuff won't be on here. And this isn't a ranking of the games in their entirety, I'll simply be looking at their campaigns and every aspect of their campaigns. Story, level design, enemies, we'll be talking about all that stuff. Obviously, all of this is simply my opinion and chances are the overwhelming majority of you won't agree with this list in its entirety. Be sure to comment what you agree or disagree with and why I'm a casual who doesn't understand Halo. Without further ado, let's start with what I think is the worst Halo campaign. Number 8, Halo 5. I read The Fall of Reach and The Flood as a kid. I don't remember much from them, and otherwise I haven't been into the lore at all. I also didn't complete Spartan Ops. So when Halo 5 started and suddenly Buck was a Spartan, Halsey had one arm, and they were trying to kill some dude named Jewel in Dama, I had no clue what was happening. And then when you play as Master Chief, for some reason his old Spartan team from the books is back. The plot of Halo 5 is basically that Cortana's still alive, Master Chief sets off to find her with Blue Team, and thinking he's being manipulated, Fireteam Osiris is sent to stop him. Then it turns out Cortana controls a bunch of Forerunner technology and wants to take over the galaxy. I know that a lot of people had a problem with how the story was handled in this game. In all honesty, I can overlook a bad story in a Halo game if everything else is awesome because although it's certainly better to have a good story, it's not what makes or breaks it for me. The problem for Halo 5 is that the rest of the game is not awesome. In every other Halo campaign, including the ones low on my list, there's at least one level that sticks out for me and is memorable. This game doesn't have that. It's just a whole lot of The Prometheans in this game, I think, are even worse than they are in 4. Fighting them is just boring. And don't even get me started on the Warden Eternal fight that happens over and over again. I will say that I know there's a lot of people who hate the art style in 4 and 5, but visually I thought Halo 5 looked amazing when it came out and it still looks pretty good. In terms of levels that were super fun to play and memorable in that respect, yeah, there weren't any for me, but I do remember playing the first mission Osiris for the first time and thinking the snowy environment really was visually stunning. But otherwise, yeah, I think 5 was just boring and uninteresting. Even the Arbiter's Return was lame. Let's move on to the next game. Number 7, Halo 4. I'm not doing a tier list, but there is a gap between 5 and everything else. I don't like 5, I do like 4. This dumb video idea generator that, for the record, I have never actually used a video idea from, suggested I make a video about being down bad for Halo 4 Cortana. I'm not going to do that, but I will say I think her dealing with rampancy throughout the game is very interesting. I don't really care about the larger plot with the Didact and the Librarian and all that, but the character stuff between Master Chief and Cortana I think is well done, and her death at the end is a truly great Halo moment. I really like how Halo 4 opens. You're still on the Dawn, the Covenant show up, and you're approaching this weird planet. Once you land on the planet, you don't really know what to expect, and it captures the original Halo feeling well in that regard. Then you run into the Prometheans, which are new, and you want to know what other surprises are going to come. The game starts to fall apart a bit for me after the Didact shows up. The first 3 levels pretty much show everything the game has to offer. Like in Halo 5, again, the Prometheans aren't fun to fight. They're basically just the Covenant but worse. And beating a dead horse, I hate how the Knights teleport. So annoying. And yeah, whereas Halo 5 is a next-gen game I think got away with it, the art style is a problem in this game. Master Chief looks stupid, the Covenant look goofy, especially the elites. You're all thinking it, so I'll just say it. The best looking character, obviously, is Lasky. For Halo 5, I mentioned that story doesn't make or break a game for me. If it did, Halo 4 would be a lot higher on my list. It ended up being my second lowest, but I do like Halo 4's campaign. It's good. I just prefer the other games. Number 6, Infinite. So yeah, the 343 games are all the lowest for me, which is probably a shock to no one. I've seen this game's campaign get a lot of hate, and honestly, I don't get it. I prefer the older games, obviously, but there's nothing about Infinite's campaign that just enrages me and makes me want to spend an inordinate amount of time posting about it. The closest thing would be the boss fights. I wasn't a fan of those. Story-wise, you get bits about what happened with Cortana, but that whole storyline from 5 was resolved off-screen. In Infinite, you're on a Halo, and it's controlled by the Banished, which are like the Covenant, except they aren't, and there's a new race called the Endless that wants to use the Halo ring. I gotta be honest, in 2023, I don't care about the story of Halo anymore, so I have literally zero thoughts on the quality of this. I'll leave that to y'all in the comments. I love the cutscene before the first level where Master Chief is floating around the wreckage checking the Marines' bodies. The score is excellent, it's visually beautiful, and the you have one bullet against an entire army, it's enough exchange is peak Halo. Like Halo 4, I love the opening to Infinite. The first level, getting out to the ring for the first time, fantastic. And the actual gameplay and combat, it's great. It feels like classic Halo. I love the addition of the grapple hook. I think the biggest problem is that it just gets too repetitive. Everything looks the same. All the levels feel the same. I made a video a while ago ranking just the levels from the first 3 games, and a big part of why I just did the first 3 games and not all the games is because of Infinite and the fact that, granted I only played through it once, I don't remember a single level that happens in this game after you land on the Halo ring. I don't know what any of them are called. I guess I remember the boss boss fights, but that's it. And the boss fights are the only change up you have. Otherwise, you're just running through environments that all look the same, fighting the same enemies over and over, and it all bleeds together, at least for me. One of the cool things about the Halo rings in Halo 1 and 2 was the fact that while you were on them, you went to all of these different unique environments. I get that Infinite all takes place around the same location, but I would have liked to see some kind of changes to scenery. I did like Infinite's campaign. I like the attempt at the open world, even though I think it could have been done better for sure. I think it was definitely the best of 343's campaigns. Number 5, Reach. I made a video about Halo Reach's campaign a few weeks ago, so I won't just repeat everything I said there, and I'll be kind of brief. I think the problems are twofold. One, Reach has the worst core gameplay of any of Bungie's Halo games, at least in terms of PvE. I do like Reach's multiplayer. And two, I think the first 5 levels in Reach all feel like filler. Tip of the Spear is definitely the best of these 5, but the rest range from meh to horrible, and I hate it. What elevates it above Infinite for me is the second half of the game. This is where both the story and the level design pick up big time. Story-wise, the game turns dark and depressing and everyone dies, and not to sound like a Debbie Downer, but I love all that stuff. And that atmosphere does influence my opinion of levels like Exodus and New Alexandria. I love both of those levels. I think they're top tier Halo, and as much as I think the first half of Reach drops the ball, the last 4 levels of this game are all great and hold up well against the other Bungie games. I also just can't get over how freaking cool it is to see your customized Spartan in the campaign. 10-year-old Frog loved that, and so does 22-year-old Frog. Number 4, ODST. I think ODST is fantastic. I love the noir vibes, exploring the rainy city as the rookie, and story-wise, I was surprised to find out a lot of people don't like ODST's story. I think for what the game is, a stripped-down personal story where you're not saving the galaxy as Master Chief, it's exactly what it needs to be. You're alone in the city, collecting clues and trying to find the rest of your squad. Then on top of that, there's a mystery with the superintendent and the engineers and the side story with the audio logs. It fits what Bungie was going for perfectly. Then on top of that, you have your ODST squad where everyone has their own personality and all the voice actors do a really good job. Level-wise, I think ODST has some of the best levels in the entire series. The stretch of levels from Kazingo Boulevard through Data Hive are all top-tier Halo. Every single one is great. I think I'm repeating myself almost word for word from my ODST video, but Kazingo Boulevard is possibly my favorite tank mission in the entire series. Not a big fan of Coastal Highway though, could have done without that one. I have 2 gripes with ODST, one's pretty big and one is more of a nitpick. I'll start with the nitpick. You're playing as an ODST, you're not the Master Chief. In the nighttime sections, the game has the vibe of a stealth game and all the marketing reinforces that, yet when it comes down to the gameplay, you're still just the Master Chief. You can run in and murder everything in sight. And I mean on Legendary too. This game is in the same engine as Halo 3, and Halo 3 is by far the easiest game on Legendary, and that carries over here. It's way too easy, and minor differences like grenade arc and your health bar aside, you still just feel like the Master Chief. I think ODST should have been much harder and really trying to incentivize stealth and avoiding enemies, where it's possible to take out an entire Covenant squad, but maybe you think twice about it. And yes, I know that ODSTs are supposed to be elite. Having the ability to solo a single Covenant squad constitutes elite compared to your average Marine. The battle should have been more small scale and made more challenging because, again, you aren't a Spartan. The game being too easy also compounds its biggest problem, which is that it's just too short. Playing on normal for my old video about it, I beat it in under 3 hours, and I later played it on Legendary, and yeah, I beat the entire game in about 3.5 hours on Legendary. That's me playing it normally, by the way. I don't know any speedrun stuff for Halo 3 ODST. For a game that was $60 when it was released, there just isn't enough content, and considering this game didn't have matchmaking, the campaign should have been longer. ODST though, for what it is, whether or not it was overpriced aside, I think is great. Number 3, Halo 3. So we're in the top 3, and if I was doing tiers, these 3 would all be in their own tier above the previous campaigns. These are all really close for me, and if you ask me again in a month, I might have a different order. I think in my Halo 3 video, I may have said that its campaign was my favorite. I don't remember, so you'll have to watch that video and let me know. And in terms of the whole game, that's probably still true, but just in terms of the campaign, I have it 3rd. It's similar to Reach in that I think the back half is much stronger than the first half. Story-wise, the first 4 levels of this game are filler. You get found by Johnson in the jungle, go to a base, drive to a town, and then blow up an AA gun. Which makes sense, because the ending for this game was originally going to be the ending for Halo 2, so they had to figure out how to get there again after scrapping the original plan. The difference between this and Reach is that even though the levels are filler story-wise, from a level design perspective, they are great. The one hiccup being Sabo Highway, which I would just call okay. The rest of the story still isn't that great, but the levels, with the glaring exception of Cortana, are some of the best in the entire series. The Ark and the Covenant for a lot of people are their 2 favorite levels, period, and they're both in my top 5 for sure. The Warthog run at the end of Halo is also the perfect way to end the trilogy. Absolute perfection. Funny enough, I have 3 gripes with Halo 3's campaign, 2 of which I've covered already. 1, the story is serviceable, but probably the worst of any of Bungie's games. 2, the level Cortana in general. And 3, the brutes. The brutes aren't as fun to fight as the elites, and in this game they basically just operate as elites except with armor instead of shields. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the brutes aren't fun to fight because they definitely are, I just prefer fighting the elites in the first 2 games, which is one of the reasons why they're higher than Halo 3. I will say one benefit of this, especially on Legendary, is that the entire sandbox is open. Whereas in the first 2 games you have to rely heavily on the plasma pistol, this game you can use pretty much anything you want. I also like the brute additions to the sandbox, the spiker, spike grenades, mauler, prowler, chopper, all that stuff. Make no mistake, because I've been kind of negative trying to justify this game's placement because this is the one I'm expecting the most disagreement on, but I really like Halo 3's campaign. It's a lot of fun to play through, but after really thinking about it, I have more fun playing the next 2. Number 2, Halo 2. Story-wise, Halo 2 is hands down the best of any of the games. I love the Arbiter in that side of the story. As opposed to Master Chief, who's an emotionless husk, the Arbiter is a character with a ton of depth who has a satisfying arc over the course of the game, and Keith David does an amazing job playing him. The voice acting in general is great. Michael Wincott as Truth and Robert Davi as Halfjaw are the other 2 standouts. Master Chief's side of the story is definitely weaker, but it's still fine, it's serviceable. Halo 2 was actually the first Halo I ever played. I was 4 when it came out, and as a dumb child, I never thought twice about the cliffhanger ending, and now that Halo 3 has been out for over 15 years, it doesn't bother me at all. Would it have been cool to have the original ending they wanted? Yeah, but the fact that it doesn't, I don't really care that much about looking back. Had I been older when this game came out, maybe I would have a different opinion. In terms of the core gameplay, I prefer Halo 2 over Halo 3. I think the battle rifle and carbine feel better than in 3, and the elites are better enemies than the Halo 3 brutes. I also think the Halo 2 brutes are better than the Halo 3 brutes because in Halo 2 they're actually different from the elites and you have to play them differently. The biggest problems with Halo 2 for me are that it hits a lull in the middle with the level Sacred Icon and Quarantine Zone, and that for whatever reason Bungie just fell in love with really long elevator and gondola rides in this game. Oracle, Regret, and Quarantine Zone all suffer from this with unskippable sections that drag on forever. I do have a speedrunner's mentality though, so maybe I'm a little bit biased. Overall though, I think Halo 2 has a really good set of levels, and controversially it has my favorite level in the entire series in Gravemind. The Great Journey originally wasn't supposed to be the last level, so it makes sense when I say that this game definitely has the worst and most anticlimactic ending level of any of the 3 original games. I'll also just take a second to say that yes, I know a lot of people hate how hard this game is on Legendary, and there certainly is a lot of BS from sniper jackals to rocket flood to elites one-hitting you with melees, but I actually enjoy the challenge. To me, it never feels unfair. It feels like this is really hard and I need to play better. And in a world where someone can beat the entire game on lasso without dying in one sitting, y'all are capable of simply making it through on Legendary. I believe in you. Anyway, on to Halo CE. Number 1, Halo CE. Big surprise, the guy who makes legendary speedrun videos about Halo Combat Evolved has it as his favorite Halo campaign. Story-wise, CE is perfect. There's goofy dialogue here and there like, they call it Halo, or Cortana randomly using British slang in the 2 Betrayals cutscene, but the overall story is perfection. In terms of a self-contained story, it has a satisfying beginning, middle, and end with a couple twists while you explore the ring and uncover the mysteries of Halo. And it succeeds in creating a universe where later stories could also be told. The first 6 levels of Combat Evolved are all bangers, culminating in the Flood reveal in 343 Guilty Spark, which is one of the best twists in all of gaming. I think in the past, I was a bit too hard on Assault in the Control Room, as well as 2 Betrayals. They're both great levels. I love the Snowy Canyon environment. Does it get a little repetitive? Sure, but it really doesn't hinder my experience that much. The Maw is a great ending level. It's fun to play, I like how the game bookends on the Pillar of Autumn, and of course, the Warthog run is an awesome way to end the game. Gameplay-wise, there is nothing more fun in the entire series than fighting the Covenant in Halo CE. Bungie nailed the sandbox and balancing in this game. I don't know what to say except it's so good. Great work, Jamie. The Flood aren't as fun to fight for sure, and that's true in 2 and 3 as well, but they're fine, and unlike the Prometheans, which feel like the Covenant but worse, the Flood are at least unique. The biggest hiccup in the game is the library, which I know a lot of you like. It's not a good level. You can still enjoy it. I enjoy bad things too. The Benchwarmers is a terrible movie. I still like it. Keys the level I would just say is okay. Everything else I think is great. Side note, this doesn't affect my ranking at all. I think CE is really cool to speedrun. Watching someone easily tear through enemies on Legendary is awesome, and the tricks are insane, which is why I wanted to learn it. Bungie hit an absolute home run with CE, and although I didn't play it in 2001 when it first came out, it was one of the first games I ever played as a kid, and I remember being blown away by it. But I don't think my continued love for it is just nostalgia, because there's a lot of stuff I liked as a kid that I now think sucks. Halo 1 still holds up for me. That's it for my rankings. Be sure to tell me what you agree with or disagree with in the comments, and if you like Halo CE, then click the video on screen to see how I beat it on Legendary without shooting. I'll catch you later.